My name is Julian Harper, one of the co-founder members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. Today I'm here with a full panel. First of all, with Noel Leader.
Peace, family.
Second of all, Michael Graves, a.k.a. Big Mike.
Namaste.
And we are fortunate, truly fortunate, to be blessed with the great Father Lucas. All right. We're glad to have you back, Father. As you guys know, this is a live program, and in about 30 minutes, you guys will have an opportunity to call in and to talk about some of the things we discuss and some topics that you may want to discuss that we may not have previously expounded upon. As you guys know, we always have a historical piece from our in-house historian, Michael Graves. Michael, I know you wanted to talk about Ella Baker, the civil rights activist. It's her birthday.
Yeah, just wanted to mention her because there's so many heroes and sheroes that are unheralded in our community and unsung in the truest sense of the word. Ella Baker was one of those who had the unique skill to lead from the back of the classroom. She mentored everybody from Dr. King, Kwame Ture, Thurgood Marshall, just so many. A. Philip Randolph was involved in SCLC, SNCC, NAACP, which she did for half of her life, and then went on to SCLC and then SNCC. Beautiful sister. So glad that I had the opportunity to meet her. Great woman in her own right, and we should not forget those who mentored, so many leaders that like Kwame Ture will tell you in a minute how valuable she was to the black community. So we should not forget people like Ella Baker.
Okay, and we also wanted to talk about the incident that occurred with...
No, I think Father Lucas wants to say
I'm sorry, Father, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add with Ella Baker, what was tremendous in my dealing with her is that she never wanted to be out front. She was never there saying, looky, looky, look at me, like some of these so-called leaders.
Right. We also wanted to talk about Jamal, the incident that occurred with the arrest.
Yeah, well, with Mumia Abu-Jamal, who, as you well know, was a journalist of the highest order, he was driving a cab. He was moonlighting as a journalist as well as driving a cab, and got into an incident with a police officer, and he was found unconscious with a weapon at his side. And the police officer was found dead, and I think it was his brother was there also. And the police put the murder of the police officer on Mumia Abu-Jamal in 1981. I dare say he's never had a true level playing field when he went to court. This was still at the height of COINTELPRO, and Judge Sabo was a willing participant with destroying Mumia Abu-Jamal. So for the record, to give it context, you have to understand that back then there was not the political correctness, or at least the perception of it. So, when you wanted to railroad a black person, it was very, very easy. You had the access of not only the local police department, but the FBI, as well as other governmental agencies, as well as the state mechanism to railroad somebody. And he's never had a real day in court, and he has been in jail since 1981. So we should not forget on this day our brother, a real warrior, Mumia Abu-Jamal.
And for those individuals, and very frequently, you hear United States criticizing other governments for political prosecutions as if there's no political prisoners right here in the United States of America. In light of the fact that we have revealed documents under COINTELPRO and the Freedom of Information Act where the United States federal agencies, the FBI, as well as local police departments had conspired to destroy and arrest, and then sometimes even get into deadly physical confrontations with members of political organizations such as the Black Panther Party and others, CORE, SNCC, et cetera, et cetera. These individuals in these organizations that were legal organizations, they weren't criminal organizations, were targeted by these law enforcement agencies. So it's always so hypocritical for me to hear United States criticize other leaders of other governments and other countries for their prosecution or alleged prosecution or oppression of political prisoners when we have some right here in this country. And Namir Abdul-Jamal is one of those political prisoners. You know, individuals who testified against him have come forward and say that they were pressured by the police to make statements. They have recanted their statements to say that I lied against him and I feel bad about it now, but I was pressured, you know. And there's so many things about this particular case, about the prosecution of Namir, which warrants a second trial, and that's what his supporters have been asking for. And unfortunately, they haven't gotten it yet. But for his sacrifice, for him being targeted because of his commitment to our community and his political activities, as Michael stated, we should never forget, because this is an individual who's presently incarcerated still and has been incarcerated for a long time, so we should never forget individuals like Namir.
Not only was he incarcerated for a long time, he spent a great deal of that time on death row.
Exactly.
And when we talk about the justice system, this man was being tried before a judge who was heard to say, I want to fry that nigger. And
Sabo.
I call him Slavo. And when the information, the evidence was, Mumia was legally to carry a gun. But what happened was when they said he shot him, the gun that Mumia had was a very different caliber from the bullet that was found in this officer. And that was totally ignored because, as Judge Sabo said, I want to fry that nigger.
Yeah, when you talk about the persecution and the prosecution of members of our community by law enforcement, when there is a real zealous prosecution, when they want it, evidence doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter. When they feel that they want these people persecuted, or rather, in this case, prosecuted, I mean, they call out all hands on deck, and they do what they have to do to get these prosecutions. Noah?
And as it goes, you know, my statement again to the prosecution of political prisoners or political activists in this country, you know, this is another portion of American history that they just gloss over. They want to act like it never happened. You know, J. Edgar Hoover and his activities. All of this is documented fact that individuals, Americans, who were, you know, abiding by the Constitution of the freedom of speech, freedom to organize, although these agencies didn't like what they were saying, they had a right to say it, these individuals were targeted. So once again, there are presently in this country political prisoners who are and have been incarcerated for dozens of years.
And the prosecutions actually were persecutions.
Exactly.
And just one thing that Father Lucas said earlier that's extremely important. They did the ballistics on the very gun that he had. It was not the gun that killed the police officer. And that's one thing. In other words, you use science, the value of science obviously is credible. However, you use science for your agenda. If the science proves that you did it, then they go with the science. When it was proven that he was not the one that shot the police officer, they disregarded the physical evidence that was right there on that scene and said he did it anyway. So, and that's one thing about a power relationship between whites and the black community. It doesn't matter what's legal. It doesn't matter what the law says. If they say he's going to jail, and to use the words that Father Lucas quoted when Judge Sabo said, I'm going to fry that nigga, that's what they did. They just dismissed the color of law. They just dismissed that and just went with their own white agenda, which is to destroy, destabilize, disrupt black organizations, discredit their leadership. That's what the aim and goals of the counterintelligence program was, and that's what they did with Mumia. So right now, an innocent man lingers in jail for over 36 years now, 81. So we're talking about at least 36 years he's been in jail for something that he did not do.
All right. Thank you for the historical piece. Mike, we appreciate it. Now, back to our topics, for today. Everybody knows that in Alabama there's a major election going on with Roy Moore and Doug Jones from the Democratic Party, and Roy Jones for the Republican Party.
More.
Jones, I say Jones. I'm talking about the boxer. Roy Moore. We know that President Trump is pushing really, really hard for Roy Moore to win this election. Noah, we were talking about this a little bit earlier.
Right. Yeah, this is a very interesting race, and it's kind of reflective of the times that we live in, especially under, President Donald Trump. One of the things that I told our family when Trump was elected to president, the only good thing I can think about his election, and I thought is there anything good that could come out of his election, is that the robe will be pulled off on a lot of faces. A lot of people will take off their robe and be upfront about their racism. And Roy Moore is one of the individuals. He made a lot of repugnant comments. He's accused of child molestation. Mm-hmm. He's accused of molesting a 14-year-old. And individuals in Alabama and his supporters, in spite of these atrocities, another woman as well have come forward to say that they was molested. And of course, the times that we live in, where a lot of accusations are being made against political figures, et cetera, et cetera. Some people had to resign or step down from their office. Here's an individual who's being propped up and being supported in spite of the accusations, and in spite of his past, and in spite of some of the comments that he's made, in regarding that, America during the period of slavery was one of the best eras of this country, because families were, together and united, that he made a comment one time that all amendments after the 10th Amendment should just be ignored, and that, includes the abolishment of slavery. This individual, and his supporters should send up a red flag. All those, not only him, but all of those individuals that support him. So the mere fact that this is a heated race is an embarrassment, to this country, to the political system, because he has supporters, and he has a lot of supporters. So, you have to ask the question, how far have we come? Now I also want to talk about the fact that everybody else made their comment, the importance that everybody's saying that the black community plays in this particular race, that if the black community comes out in numbers that Barack Obama, when he ran, and they supported him in that state, that it's more likely that Doug Jones can possibly pull this off, even though a Democrat hasn't been elected in the state for a very long time. But they're putting the onus on us, and that just shows, like Malcolm X talked about in the Battle of the Bullet, how significant the black vote is. And if our vote is so significant, how can we never reap any of the benefits when we support certain candidates and they do get elected? It seems like our advancement, aside from a few political appointments, it seems like we don't advance that much. But anyway, this individual, he's not even fit to run for door catcher, more or less, Senator. And, we'll see, if he has the majority support in that particular state, in spite of his past.
And this is going to tell a lot about the state of not just Alabama, but of this entire nation. When we have a president who is staunch in his support for someone who has such a tainted history politically, and we're talking about his relationship with women and his misogynistic views and racism, across the board. And, as you said, Noel, the veil has been lifted off of some of these racists that are sitting in elected offices, and we have to definitely hold them accountable. Father Lucas.
It's very interesting that with his background, Roy Moore, that how many, if you look at the pictures of his rallies, white women showing you that racism is supreme over every other thing. And then when they got on Al Franken, who was a very decent senator, John Conyers, this was very interesting. In that case, they both resigned and left office. And here you have one pervert supporting another pervert, and one pervert gets put in the White House and is called president, and the other pervert is heading, or hopefully not, is heading for the Senate. And that shows you at what stage, when the lunatics talk about make America great again, he's talking about make white supremacy obvious now. You don't have to be in the closet anymore. I'm your leader. You could come out and do whatever and say whatever you want.
Well, I think that the Roy Moore matter has been thoroughly discussed. I'd rather focus in on some other aspects of it, starting with the GOP. You're looking at a party who always talks about the value of family, the value of Christianity, always focus in on Christian virtues, Christian values, Christian ethics, Christian mores, and as I said, the value of family. Here you have a situation where they will actually, instead of choosing a Democrat who they don't have a bad word against, even though secretly they're holding it against him that he prosecuted the people years later that, from the 16th Street Baptist Church, the individuals who were all a part of killing 4 little girls as they prayed to the goodness of the Lord and sang songs worshiping God. So they holding that against him because they would rather he have allowed them to live their long life and not be prosecuted near the end of their life, which he did. But these are people that espouse religion, God, faith, family, things like that, and they're being exposed right now as we speak. And even white women, as Father Lucas pointed out, you have white women who, instead of standing for at least their gender, they would go with party first over even gender. Because here you have a white man abusing little girls, white little girls. Luckily, it ain't black ones. It's white ones as early as 14 years old. Even went to the principal's office to get the name and get the telephone number of one and had the principal call her to his office. That's how disgusting a pervert he is. But in any way, they have ignored all of that, his transgressions over the past 40 some odd years that they can trace for the party. But let's look further. He has said that anything after the 10th Amendment should be abolished because it creates problems for America, and America was much stronger during slavery time. He said families were together and stronger during slavery time. Well, if you dismiss everything from the 10th Amendment, then you're talking about the actual Civil War amendments that freed us, 13th, 14th, and 15th. 13th abolished slavery, 14th established citizenship, and the 15th gave black men the right to vote. Black women couldn't vote because women could not vote. But we had the right to vote as men as of 1870. So in one fell swoop, he's saying dismiss all of it after the 10th Amendment because he knows that the first 10 amendments dealt with the states as opposed to the federal government. And he has a problem with the federal government being the overruled states. In other words,
take to the grave is that philosophy of white supremacy. Later for the Republican and Democratic Party. If it supports white supremacy, they would it.
They would. And even when you're talking about the right to vote, that's a joke too. Because if you look at so many laws which took away this right, and then if you look at the prison industrial complex, which takes away right to vote for so many, for millions of black folks, that piece of paper is just a piece of paper.
Exactly. All right. Our next topic, we briefly discussed last week about a FDNY EMS worker who was the son of a former commissioner of the fire department who had made some really derogatory racial statements about Dr. King, and we got into it last week, but we're going to talk about it briefly again today. Joseph Cassano. Noel.
Yeah, just seconds, because I know we'll discuss this later. I just want to say real quick that there's a press conference with the Vulcan Society. That's a black fire officers who are going to have a protest against this administration, the Blasio administration, who have taken on this individual who made some repugnant, racist statements openly. But it's in vibe with the times, the Donald Trump times that we live in. We see that all of them, are taking off their robe, taking off their mask, taking off their veil. So we'll see more about it because there's going to be a press conference tomorrow with the Vulcan Society, which is black firefighters, who's going to be critical of this particular hire. And, the fire department for years have had problem hiring black and Latinos, especially blacks. But these are the kind of individuals that they easily accept who have publicly made some outrageous comments.
And one of the issues I have with this is that he talked about, like, even dogs being more worthy of being treated as opposed to some of the blacks
exactly.
and people that live in these communities he was working in. I mean, I'm concerned about what is his response going to be when he has to go into a burning building that's filled with young black children or people from our community. I mean, is he really going to risk his life to ensure that these people are safe?
He already told you.
Unbelievable. All right, and we'll keep an eye on that as well. We were talking about Matthew Ellis, a computer science person involved in computer science who snatched a woman out of a car in New Jersey. Michael, I know you wanted to talk about this Fort Lee.
This, oftentimes we show you stories of police abuse, how a police officer can blatantly just disrespect the community or outright murder someone in plain sight. This white guy, he's not a police officer. He's a computer scientist. He starts yelling obscenities to a black woman who's driving her car right next to his. When the light changes, she takes off. He follows her and rear ends her. And at that point, gets out of the car, come over there to her. She stops because her car was just hit. And he, after cursing her out, opens her car door, snatches her out of the car, drags her by her ankles, and then when he's getting ready to pounce and start beating her up, 3 motorists jump out of their car and grab the guy. When they grabbed him, she takes off and runs to the office building, which is right down the block. He breaks away from those 3, chase her. They chase him again, grab him again, and hold him for the police while somebody's calling the police. The police show up. He refuses to say anything to the police officers initially. She comes out of the building because she sees a police officer out there now, so she thinks everything is in order. He spits at the police officer, tells her he's going to kill her, threatens her, and tell the police officers, I want to kill her because she's black, and I don't think he used those words. When he did that, he just got acquitted. I've said all that to say he did all of that, even in the presence of the police officer, threatened that he would kill her because she's black. He gets acquitted on insanity in Fort Lee, New Jersey. We ain't talking about Mississippi. Fort Lee, New Jersey, he gets acquitted of assaulting her, of threatening her with racial epithets, for the assault of the police officer, for spitting at the police officer, which is an assault. He gets all of that dismissed with an insanity charge here in plain sight in New Jersey.
Is this Alabama?
Not Alabama, not Mississippi. Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is not far from here.
You know, and this, we talk about it frequently on Community Cop. The criminal and justice system in this country is flawed. It doesn't work. I don't know. Did he have a trial, a jury trial, or a judge trial?
Judge.
A judge. Now, you show me, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to be very short on this. Can you imagine, just switch the race component of the individuals. The defendant, this white individual, make him black, and the female, make her white. Can you imagine what the outcome would be? This is a flawed criminal justice system, because of the racial component, which frequently plays. White supremacist has a little thing, and I'm convinced, I read something about it years ago, they have a little mechanism in their brain when they look at a situation, when the race is evident, they automatically switch it on, and they can't, do the right thing. It's impossible. And then when the race is other, then that thing in their head, it switches back, because this is unbelievable. No one that's watching this program or sitting here would believe that if this was a black individual that is similar to a white female, that he would have been a commit of anything.
If he spat on a
police officer, assaulted a police officer.
It's unfortunate that, when we look at the duplicity in how the justice system deals with African American people and people of color, it's just a dehumanization of our people. I mean, they don't. I've sat in a jury trial, and you can tell by the way that the members of the jury are describing the incident, the sympathy and sometimes empathy that they have for, depending on which side of the floor the white person is sitting on, that racism is playing a real big role in the decisions that they're making. They dehumanize our people, they criminalize our people, they demonize our people, and that stays in their psyche when they have to make decisions when we would hope it would be a fair and an impartial decision, but it's not being done. It's not done. Mike?
No, this is ready for the next one.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, Mike ready to go.
Go ahead,
It's
brother.
almost time.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I might as well just
go ahead,
get
Mike.
to it. There's a FOP president in Cincinnati. His name, I'll give you his name in a second. What he did was, it was during a roll call. The sister who normally does the roll call, it was her day off, Lieutenant Danita Pettis, a black woman. She was off, and he told the officers that soldier under her, white officers soldier under her, that it's hard policing an urban ghetto environment, especially with her as a supervisor. So he was talking bad about her behind her back, and this was confirmed by a white sergeant who said that he did it. Sergeant O'Malley, a white guy, said, because he even knew it was wrong for him to take advantage of her day off to speak like that. And he boasted about when she was a little girl, he kicked her, he used ASS. When she was a little girl, he locked her up. And that he's surprised that she became a police officer after enduring, a racist beating for absolutely, she was doing nothing. And he admitted that he kicked her, locked her up as a little girl, and she turns around, joins the Cincinnati Police Department, goes through the ranks, and now she's a tall commander. And he said that he never imagined in his wildest dreams that she would be his supervisor. And he just said it's the horror of her, because he remember kicking her butt. Big ups to that sister. Now she's his supervisor. And got to give the sergeant credit for admitting in an official report that he spoke at roll call and spoke ill about her.
I don't know if Noel's going to comment, but it doesn't surprise me. I find that, and me being, I guess, in the same rank as her before I left the job, a platoon commander, it is very difficult for white folks to be supervised by black folks. I mean, it hurts them to the core.
That thing in their head I talked about. Is that thing in their head?
You were supervisor as well.
Yes,
for them to have to take orders and follow orders by someone of color, by a black person, I mean, you could tell that it touches something in their heart and in their psyche, man. It's just very difficult for them, man.
Right, and the racism that her co-workers articulated before as co-workers, we've experienced that in the New York City Police Department. Racism is a part of policing. New York City Police Department is entrenched with white supremacists, racists. I knew many of them. I fought many of them for almost 20 years. My history is documented. It's not even debatable.
Right.
And they have some good officers on the force, but the overwhelming majority of them aren't good. And the reason why I say that, because you're either good by commission and omission. If you see other officers who do things that are inappropriate, like this sergeant, you're supposed to step up, but they don't. If you see an officer overly aggressive and abusing a prisoner, abusing a citizen, if you don't speak up, you're just as bad. So you're not good, even if you're not participating or doing something by commission, right? You're bad because you're a police officer. You're supposed to stand for what's right, and you're supposed to stop all that stuff from happening. So, kudos to this sister. But this is, like I said, this happens across law enforcement agencies throughout the nation, unfortunately.
And his FOP president's name is Dan Hills of Cincinnati Police Department. He's the FOP president. He's the union president.
Right.
But on the job, she's the superior officer, and that's what he was lamenting, that he never imagined that she would be his boss one day.
That's his main problem.
It brings back memories when I was chairman of public safety for Community Board 10 and had to go to the precincts and the PSAs in the 2-8 precinct. I could remember talking about the racist attitude, and this joker just got out of the academy, sitting down there feeling his gun.
I was there. I remember that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at him and say, don't think about it.
Father Lucas, for those who don't know, I ain't going to say it. You can mess around and sleep if you want to.
And then the other thing, I'm driving in my car and I had the red, black, and green thing on my license plate, and some joker pulls me over, and they were in plain clothes, by the way, and give me a ticket. I called the commissioner, what's her name, Billie Holiday, and eventually
Wilhelmina Holiday.
Wilhelmina Holiday, and I told him what he was doing. I hope you know what you're doing. Could you see the numbers? Could you see the state?
Right.
Then what's your problem?
Right.
And he said,
And his real problem ain't like the red, black, and green.
right, that was the problem.
All roads lead the road. Racism. Right back to it.
3
Same
weeks
issue.
later, he was back in uniform.
Okay. All right. We have some callers on the line. First caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment. You're on the line, caller.
We can't hear out here.
Hopefully, we're not having technical.
I think I
issues.
heard a little bit. Hello?
Turn it up.
Hello, this is Scobie. Hello?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Where you calling from?
Okay, I'm calling from Manhattan.
Okay. Go ahead. Quick question or comment.
Okay, yeah. 2 questions real quick, though. Question number 1. What do you guys think about the recent police killing that guy that attacked the cop down in Florida? And then secondly, the Elmwood or whatever, that part of Chicago with those people that just was freed, and they're gonna get the $37 million, and then the police the police union guy talking against that. That's what I wanted. I just wanted to get your guys' take on that.
Well, let me just say quickly that the $31 million that 4 individuals are going to get, it is similar and almost identical to the Central Park 7. It is literally almost identical. They forced these young men who stayed in jail for 16 years. They were literally children at the time, forced them to make false statements against each other, and literally to the letter, it's what happened here in New York. And these young men later were able to prove that they would not participate because the same thing happened. It was another person's whose DNA matched the person who actually raped the woman and killed her. So it's literally identical, with the exception that in New York it was a rape and assault, and in Chicago it was a homicide and a rape. So it's literally identical. So it's good that they're getting the money, and they should have found out earlier, which they knew that those kids didn't do it.
And that amount of money doesn't pay up
Exactly.
in any way for the number of years that they spent in
police
jail.
union guy still talking against it.
Oh, yeah, what do you expect?
Same thing in New York.
Yeah.
The actual detectives on the Central Park case still maintain to this day that it was great police work, as well as even high levels like the commissioner have all
And
said
Donald Trump.
it was, and you
And
know,
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump says that the work was good and that Reyes is lying, but Reyes' DNA, he don't have to say a word. His DNA was on her body.
Yeah, somebody's lying, confessing to
Okay, all right,
almost a
thank you,
murder. Right.
Okay,
That shows you what a nut
And good to
Trump
see a
is.
full panel today.
Yes, sir.
But you're welcome.
And I just wanted to say that to the family members, can you imagine what is the mindset of an individual who's empowered by the state to be a law enforcement officer, to be an investigator, and he is coercing information, lying, putting individuals in jail for long period of times that he knows there is no evidence? What is the mindset of a prosecutor who will conspire with a police officer to destroy somebody's life, an innocent person's life? Like what kind of monsters are these? These law enforcement officers, we have them in New York. The Brooklyn District Attorney has released dozens of individuals based on the false testimony. We see it in Los Angeles. There were scandals in Chicago. You know, law enforcement officers, people that put on the uniform and the badge, these shiny uniforms, these shiny badge, they incarcerate people that they know there's no probable cause to believe that they committed a crime, but they totally disregard and destroy their lives. What kind of monsters are these? And that's what people don't talk about when you talk about this animosity between our community and law enforcement agencies. We have monsters walking around in blue uniforms patrolling our community who is destroying lives as opposed to protecting lives, which is the number one priority of any law enforcement agency in this country.
In
At least it's
regard
supposed
to
to be.
the Central Park folks, Elizabeth Lederer admitted later that she knew they didn't do it. Linda Furstein, they were both allowed to retire with their pensions and everything else.
Right.
And they were not able to force, except for one individual, all of these youngsters maintained their innocence
Right.
from the beginning to the end. And they knew Reyes for months, but it was a political cujo to Koch.
And one of the things when you listen to Noel and he talks about how demonic and monsters these people happen to be, you got to realize the attack is only happening on our community. So it's not like these people are monsters and they monsters 24 hours a day. Because when there's white kids that are being arrested, and I've seen it, how they handle with kid gloves, and they do whatever they can to ensure that these people's lives aren't disrupted. So I mean, these are halfway monsters because they're only monsters when they deal with members of our community. But you're right in your description. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Quick question or comment?
I'm saying the one about Mujamar.
Yeah, where you calling from?
Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah, I could say the one about Mujamar. If he's in prison in Pennsylvania, and then if there's comparing that in my mind, I'm just saying. And then what's the name? Reuben Hurricane Carter in Jersey.
Yeah.
And with the situation like that, with cop grabbed the lady out the car and so and so like you said, those kind of people out there, That's all I'm saying. That's all.
All right. Thank you for your call. Okay. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Yes, good afternoon. This is John. I'm calling from Brooklyn. How are you, gentlemen?
Well, how are you today?
All right. I have a question, and this is concerning, I know, NYCHA, the housing that predominantly is mostly black and Hispanic residents that live in NYCHA in New York City. And recently they were shown on TV that the leadership of NYCHA was approving or okaying that lead inspections have been done on these apartments, that little children in our community are absorbing some of these lead paints. And so what do you think about the leadership of NYCHA and how they're maintaining and how they're keeping mostly all the apartments are pretty much black and Hispanic people that live in our city, that live in these apartments? Do you think they should be held accountable to doing a better job?
They should be held
absolutely. Go ahead, Flo.
They should be held accountable for doing a bad job. And it's very interesting, this mayor de Blasio, who's such a lover of black folks, he continued to support this gal and saying she's doing a fine job. So if that's a fine job, helping to poison black youth, you tell you where de Blasio is coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
Environmental racism is nothing new.
Exactly.
And certainly NYCHA is indicative, it's just a microcosm of the mayor, the mayor's office on down. He's a racist. He's a white supremacist of the highest order. Those who he has appointed, all the top law enforcement officials of every department under the sun are all white as we speak right now. All the power positions in finance and real estate are all white at this time. He's got the city on lockdown in plain sight. All the so-called civil rights leaders are under his wing. They have all kissed the ring under him. He has done a Giuliani without the nasty face. He is repugnant. He's vile and vicious. And I'm tired of him using his black wife and so-called black children as a front for his agenda. He has a white racist agenda, and it's been crystal clear all along. And yet, black folks love him because they look at his family, and they should not be fooled at this time. He has made it clear that any legislation that comes before his desk relative to statutory discipline on a police officer that chokes a person, he said he will veto it. So he's made it crystal clear, along with the state, the governor, that they will not punish any police officers that choke somebody out.
Well, one thing we have to remember, we fought for this system. Black folks are really fought. There are people who are getting paid exorbitant amounts of salaries who are supposed to be protecting the rights of our community, ensuring that the health of our community is at hand or being taken care of. And that's not happening. These people are taking tons of money home to ensure that they do these jobs, but they're not being done. So if they have an opportunity to cover up a situation such as that with the lead paint, they do it because they're trying to protect their jobs. They're not concerned about the health of the people that are living in those apartments. But we, as members of this community, have to emphatically hold these elected officials accountable, who in turn hire people who are failing us in our community and in our homes. And until we do so collectively, we're going to continuously be fodder for these people and subjected to these insane failings in a system that's doing absolutely nothing for us. All right. Thank you for the call and the question. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment.
How you doing, Community Cop? Michael, Father Lucas, Noel, Julian. Well, there's a bunch of white folks living in Fort Greene Project now, so I don't know what we're talking about. They can't wait to get in the project. Now, can anybody please just tell me why these families, the black families that members die through these police shootings, why are they so quick to forgive the person that did the shooting? This guy, Michael Strager, the family forgave him for shooting the son in the back. Charleston, why are we always forgiving? And nobody, I'm having a hard time with it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your call.
I think a part of it is our nature. We have an egalitarian nature about us that we just want things to be fair and upright. We don't want any extra. We don't want any benefits. We just want to be fair and upright. And unfortunately, white folks believe in white skin privilege. They believe in white supremacy. They believe in their right to rule. It's just an indeterminate number of individuals that are in government right now that believe in white rule. There are very few exceptions. Even the black ones submit and allow themselves to just be a part of this. So Slager got 20 years, but he should be on death row instead of Mumia right now. He should not have been allowed to just get one sentence from the federal government. The 20 years he got for killing that man, and didn't get any state charges. So it just shows you the lack of true justice in this country.
Father.
And part of it is a total misconstruing of Christian teaching. The idea that you could forgive somebody who is not repentant, who is not willing to accept the responsibility, who's not willing to pay the price of your bad doing, who's not willing to take steps to avoid doing it in the future, you're not a subject for forgiveness. So all of this, I forgive, it's like the guy is slapping you in the face and you saying, I forgive you, as he keeps slapping you. And it's idiocy. It has nothing to do with Christianity.
And you know,
thank you, Father.
If you look at some of these cases where people are saying they forgive certain people, and it's always, and maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but it's always black folks forgiving white folks. It's always black folks forgiving law. I've never seen it black on black, and maybe I'm wrong, and I haven't seen it, recall seeing it. White folks forgiving black folks for anything that they may have done in error or criminally. But, you know, we'll just keep an eye on that. But next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Hello?
Yeah, where you calling from, caller?
Yes, good afternoon, good evening, I should say. My name is John, and I'd like to say, first of all, that you guys are doing a tremendous job. I've watched you over the many years, 15 years. I'll make it very quick. I, too, am a retired disabled New York City policeman. I now am an ordained reverend, and I have a story that will knock your socks off. I came in the department in 1972, and I have seen everything that you have spoken about for generations. Not only did I come to the New York City Police Department, but I also was a federal agent for 5 years. Because of the deep racism that I saw, I had to leave. I come from a family situation where my whole family is in law enforcement. Unfortunately, I had a younger brother who got into a situation, who was retired. He was an officer. He got into a shooting in Brooklyn and was sentenced to 12 and a half to 15 years. He was put in solitary confinement. So as I watch and I hear what you talk about, you are right on point. And
Thank you, brother.
I stand here today fighting by myself against a system that is relentless against black males. And we need to make sure that we tell these young brothers, straighten up your act and walk right. You are in a war right now, and you better get this right. You are the victim and the prey. And from what you gentlemen have seen, what I have seen, it's a battle out here right now. But I do believe that we can win. I just graduated with a doctorate of divinity from the New York Theological Seminary. I know of Father Lucas because I know some of the people that he has spoken with and he has done. I am a product of Rice High School. I've been in the hood. I was raised in Harlem. But I'm in a nightmare right now. Now, you think about that one right now. And all I can say is keep pushing what you're doing. I will meet with you at some point along the line, but I have to meet with you quietly. But we need to discuss how do we survive and help these young people, because our brothers are brilliant kids. They are brilliant. They are phenomenally brilliant people, okay? But nobody's ever told them. So continue the good work, my brothers, and let you also know that you're not here by yourself. I am an ex-agent, and I am in a nightmare of a fight, and I hope to see you guys again. Keep up the good work, gentlemen.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Hello?
Hi, sister. Where you calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Okay, quick question or comment?
Yes, I just want to ask you brothers that are sitting on this panel. I have a son that's incarcerated and was beat down by 8 officers. He's in Washington State. And I've been calling some of everyone to try to help me. His time is almost being halfway served. I don't know what to do. I went to see him on the 22nd, and he is scared for his life.
Okay, sister. let me just tell you this. What we'll do is we'll give you our hotline number. Give us a call, and we will definitely discuss your case and your situation with you and give you as much advice and direction as we possibly can.
Thank you, beloved.
You want to go out the hotline number, Noel?
You go ahead, Mike.
718.
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay.
We'll say it at the end of the program, sister, okay?
We'll
so
say it
get a
again.
pen and paper ready.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure.
718. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
718 455
455.
9059.
9059.
And if the answer machine comes on, make sure you leave your number. Say it twice and say it very slow and clear.
Okay, I will, beloved.
Okay.
Peace,
Thank you,
sister.
sister.
Thank you.
Okay.
God bless.
God bless. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Good evening, gents. My name is Mike calling from Hollywood. This is slightly off topic, but kind of new to this, so please be kind.
Okay.
Then what is your take on the Joanne Chesimard? I'd like to know, and what do you hope to see happen? That's all I know. Thanks a million. Live long and prosper.
Okay, Joanne
She's
Chesimard.
a hero of the highest order. She's the epitome of black womanhood. We are very supportive of Assata Shakur. Her slave name was Joanne Chesimard. To show her the proper respect, her name is Assata Shakur. She's living right now in Cuba. And big ups to Cuba for protecting her and keeping her alive and well. So, respect.
And for those who don't know, Sister Assata Shakur was also accused of killing a police officer. She was a member of the Black Panther Police Party. And those members of our community who are critical of her prosecution, of the accusations against her, have a right to be. All you have to do is open the books of COINTELPRO and read about the illegal practices of law enforcement agencies throughout the country. So, anyone who would question or critique our analysis of that era and these incidents, I will bust back with historical fact. Law enforcement agencies had targeted members of these legal political organizations and did illegal break-ins, illegal wirings, illegal shootings, et cetera, informants, et cetera. So, the record is clear that, we have a right to be skeptical of some of the prosecutions and accusations that law enforcement agencies have made against these heroes and sheroes.
And this is documented by law enforcement.
Exactly.
This is not just our words, these are their words, Father.
One of the happy days in my life was when she was liberated from jail and was able to escape to Cuba. And every time I went to Cuba, I had the pleasure of speaking with her and telling her 100% support.
And not to say that you did it, but we're aware that certain people like to do trap questions. They want to get us on. And now the headline will be 100 blacks in law enforcement supporting Assata Shakur. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And always have.
And always will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We may have time for one call. Last caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment.
Peace, brothers, from Morocco with Uncle Sonny.
Okay.
And that sister, she killed the cop, I believe, because he was trying to rape her, and the enemy's children, I believe.
No, sir, she didn't kill anybody, brother.
Okay, thank you for the correction, beloved. Thank you for the correction. And I believe the enemy's children airlifted her out of there. De Blasio and his black wife and his half original children. Let's look at this here. He promoted the cop that shot 49 bullets at Amadou Diallo. Now he put this next devil in another position, which hates us. So we somehow, I don't know, brother Harper, how are we going to wake the people up to do the right thing when it comes to voting, Harper?
Brother, thank you for your call, brother. Through education, man, we just have to try to open the eyes of our people. It's unfortunate as we try to open their eyes, there's always another entity trying to close them. Feeding false information, giving lies and false promises. But, brother, we got a lot of work to do, and I think we can get it done collectively. But we're running out of time, so our last closing comments. Noel?
And, brother, answer your question and say what Julian also said, open up the eyes. When Julian say open up the eyes, he's not talking about these two eyes.
Exactly.
He's talking about the third eye, which is the mind.
Yes,
and
sir.
one of the ways that is opened by programs such as this, where we discuss issues, where we break down issues, where we talk about issues from a vantage point that many of our community haven't heard, because there is very few operations or sources of information that we have as a people to speak to our people, to critique these incidents from our perspective. So, Little More, I love you. See you next week. Peace.
Big Mike.
Shame on the community in Colorado that drove a 10-year-old little girl to kill herself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's a shame. I wish we had more time to discuss it.
Next week.
But she hung herself because of cyberbullying. That is not acceptable. There was a time where the enemy, we was clear on who the enemy was. Our open enemy, the white man wearing a hood or wearing a suit, wearing a blue uniform. But to have children in a community allow a little girl like that, a sweet little girl, to hang herself is a shame. Dr. Jack Felder made his transition. His wake is tonight in Harlem. 2225 Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard. Black man, black woman, protect the black child. Accept your own, in the words of Elijah Muhammad, and be yourself.
Father.
I don't know if they discussed it while I was away, but this so-called Reciprocity Act, in which even upstate Democrats voted in favor. I expected the Republicans and Donald Trump, which means that any clown in any boondock town that has a legal license to carry, the federal government should give them the right to carry it any place
in the country.
Could you imagine Zimmerman, for example, in Harlem with a license that he received in a gun-crazy state like Florida? It's crazy.
Wow.
They're out of their cotton-picking mind. And yet still the Republicans and those Democrats who are beneficiaries of NRA money going for it.
All right. Listen, we got a lot of work to do. When we talk, and as Noel stated, when we start talking about opening the minds and the eyes of our people, we have to do this collectively. We have to vote from a position that's going to benefit us collectively as African people in a system that is